What's going on, boys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's discussion, today's point of topic, I've been thinking lately, just with this YouTube channel and just stuff online, I don't really know how I'm going to proceed for the next 5 years. The reality of being a man, being a Gen Z man in this environment, in this generation, has really got me thinking lately. I don't really have any talking points, so I'm just gonna go off the top of my head. But the first thing I can think about right away is that I feel that my generation, and I can just speak for myself, but myself and a lot of the people that I know, really, my generation, are lost. We don't have a sense of purpose. I think that what the older generations before us saw in the world and the sort of outlook they had for the world was a lot brighter. The avenues in which they went into, like the things they did, whether it was work, just working like a regular job, or creating a business. I feel that that had more success attached to it. That had more incentives behind it. There was a more of a purpose. I feel that if we go all the way back, guys our age, I'm currently 21 years old. I turned 22 in February, this month actually. I feel like guys older than us, older generation of guys, they had something to live for, right? They had objectives to achieve. They had goals. They had things to live for. I feel like nowadays everything just seems so bleak, and maybe it's just from the news of like all the stuff going on in the world, and because of just how connected the world is now. Like, you're no longer seeing like your local news. You're seeing things that are happening all around the world, and if you're constantly consuming that type of stuff, not to say that I really limit that type of stuff, but even every time that I find myself just watching like the news or just world information, there's just constantly negative stuff going on and just doom type stuff, right? Like, it's always the world ending type of news, articles and breaking news type of deal. If it's not like World War III, it's something else. For me at least, and I feel like for guys in our generations, for boys in our generations, I feel like we don't really lack a purpose. We're just what's the word? We're just floating through life. We're just skating through life, and pretty much existing as things go by. I genuinely feel like I'm just floating on this big rock out there in the universe with no sense of being. Like, I find myself just wondering why I have the life that I have, why I'm here, and like what I'm here to do. And yeah, you could say, bro, just get a hobby, go to the gym, make some friends, get a girlfriend, pursue a passion, pursue a goal. I genuinely don't even envision. I don't see the next 5 years. Not to say that I'm sewer the rest of the world. Like, I'm not going to end myself. That I don't have any thoughts like that. But like, I genuinely, just because of just how the state of the world is, to me it genuinely feels like at any point in time the world could come to an end, whether it be like through world wars or just some crazy nonsense going on, like alien invasion type of thing. And maybe it's just like fantasy talk, and and I'm not saying that's never happened in the past. I'm sure like the older generations dealt with that sort of situation too, but I feel like just how the world is and social media, it's a lot more prevalent now. And again, I don't even have social media. I'm not on social media like that, other than this YouTube channels that I have. I have TikTok, which I limit as much as I can. I'd say on a daily, I'd probably consume maybe 4 hours of TikTok, if in a day, maybe less, probably less. And then that's it. I have TikTok, YouTube, and that's it. And TikTok and YouTube. I don't have Instagram. I don't have Twitter and every other thing. I don't have them downloaded on my phone. I have accounts for them, but I just don't use them basically. And even with TikTok, like I primarily use it just to record and post, and then maybe like another hour or two of scrolling. So I'm not really just on there just doom scrolling. For YouTube, I'd say I waste a lot more time on YouTube on just consuming a lot of information and content. But the type of content I consume, it's mostly like self-improvement type of stuff. Like if you guys want recommendation, like the Legion of Men, that's a good guy. He does a lot of he has a lot of helpful information. Just it's really good guidance, especially if you're a man and you need some guidance in the world. He acts, I wouldn't say as a father figure, but he acts as a good role model to follow if you lack one. I'd say, yeah, the first thing is really just lack of purpose. I feel like our generation of guys deal with a lack of purpose. I mean, I don't know of personally, but actually I do. I do know of people. I'm not friends with them or anything, but I know of a few guys who like dropped out of school and aren't in school. They don't work. They don't do anything. They just exist. They just game all day long. They don't do anything. They don't socialize. They don't like have friends or anything. You hear about it. There's quite a few amount of dudes out there who don't go to school. I don't know what the unemployment rate is for like guys our age, Gen Z males, but there's so many dudes who just don't go to school. They don't work. They don't do anything. They just because I genuinely feel like these guys, just like myself, are just desolate. They're just destitute. Like they don't have. There's no like drive. There's no color. There's no shine behind their eyes. There's no like there's no like goal. There's no passion. There's no love for the game. There's nothing. It's just dead. It's really dead, and I feel like that's what life has really been like for a lot of dudes. I've been in that place. I can really speak on it now just because I've been there. Like I've gone through it all. I mean, right now I'm dealing with just not being able to find a job because I live in Ontario, Canada, and if you know anything about this place, is that it's hard as fuck to find a job here. For what it's worth, I don't want to talk about that. That's a whole nother issue. But you can't find a job unless you force yourself to create a passion, like I've been doing with YouTube, and I'm doing some other online stuff, like I'm creating a brand and whatever else. I'm just trying to do things, trying to learn as much as I can on the internet, and just to see what's possible for me out there outside of just working or going to school. I definitely saw the rise of this after COVID. It's such a weird thing because before COVID, I really saw myself like graduating university, getting some desk job, or I don't know. I don't know. I saw myself graduating university, finding some job, and just working, I guess. But COVID hit, and I went to university. I did my first year mid of COVID, so there was no classes online. I was stuck inside all day long. Really, the only benefit that I had was that most people, I really don't know of a single person who didn't cheat on their exams or cheat on their on their work. But even then, like, I still didn't perform all that well, so to say. And maybe it's just because I had my own issues to deal with. School went by, and now I'm 21 years old. I'm no longer in school. For plans on going back, I don't really know. Like I don't necessarily hate school. I've always had interest in school. I'm always been pretty okay at school. Like if not, I'm probably I've always been pretty good at school. If not, okay. I just grew up with a lot of distractions that I couldn't get rid of, which kind of dampened my success in school. I would say that realistically nowadays it just feels so like destitute. It feels so like like life feels so desolate, if that makes any sense. Basically, I'll give you like a rundown of my day. I'm a 21-year-old black young adult living in Ontario, Canada, and I currently don't go to school. I don't work, and I live alone. I'm actually homeless, but I'm just living off the government, if you want to call it that. I mean, it is what I'm doing, but when you're put in my position and you have no sort of resources, no sort of say support behind you to help you and to boost you, things do seem pretty desolate and meek. And this is not to say this is like every Gen Z dude's situation out there, but I just feel like with the way the world is, like I cannot find a job to save my life, bro. Like I've been applying. Just this past week alone, I have a week. Just these past 4 days, 3 days, something like that. I've applied to like 40 different places, and this isn't just me like clicking on Indeed, clicking on a job, looking at the job description, seeing if I have the requirements for the job, and applying. This is me going through the job description, formulating an essay, formulating a resume catered to that job description, using like AI, using DeepSeek, ChatGPT, whatever. Formulating a resume just specifically for that job. And I've done that like 40 different times for different jobs, to give myself like just an extra chance of getting an interview, let alone the fucking job. But that hasn't been working all that well. The last job I had was working at a park in Brampton, Ontario. I was working at the Chinguzi Park, and it was like a seasonal job thing. It was a seasonal job, and that ended in September. So end of September, around the 1st of December. So it's been about like a month and a little bit. I think about 2 months I've been out of work now. And before that, I did construction. Now, I would say by far that's the hardest thing I've ever done. Just with such a big toll that it had on my body. And it's not to say that I can do that forever, but I think that, just personally speaking, I had a lung collapse when I was I think 19. My lung just spontaneously collapsed on its own. I don't smoke, I don't drink. When it happened, the specialist had told me that the reason being is because I was tall and skinny. And till this day, I don't know what that means really. I searched up on Google, apparently happens to random tall, skinny people. And at the time, I wouldn't really say I was all that skinny. I was like around like 160-ish, maybe 150. I don't know. Also 5'11", so I don't really see that as being too tall. That's a little bit above the average, I think. But it's not like I'm 6'7" or something, so. But that's what happened. Tall and skinny, and lung collapse randomly happened to me. I guess I won the lottery there. But when that happened, it kind of left me with a lot of fatigue. I deal with a lot of fatigue. I guess I'm a lot more tired than I used to be, and I just tire out a lot more. So a job like construction, for anyone who's done like a manual labor job, that requires a lot of energy. And you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, if not earlier, and you come back around like 6 o'clock. Usually we end at like 5, 6. And then the journey back, because you're not working just in your area, you're working like an hour away, 2 hours away, whatever. So I did that for I think like 4 months or something, before around like four months ish, maybe a little bit longer. And then before that, so I've had three jobs so far. I'm 21 years old. My very first job, I think 16 years old, 17, was working at a food chain. Not a food chain, a grocery chain called Longo. So I used to work at Longo's, and I did that for about a year. I only quit that job because I had to go off to university, and completely fucked off in university, like during COVID. It was the worst time. I genuinely regret going to university during COVID. I should have taken like a gap year or a leap year, and then just worked throughout that time. I don't think you could even work during COVID, but yeah, I should have just taken a year off of just not jump right off of high school into university. That's another piece of advice I would give to younger guys out there. If you don't know what you're gonna do, if you don't know what you're going to school for, and especially if you're not going to school for like a STEM program, trust me, dude, take your time. Take a year, take 2 years. Work if you can. If you can't, like concentrate on like if you have the ability to as well. Try and like figure out some sort of passion, some sort of something that can get you going, either online or, you know, physically. Maybe you're into photography, maybe you're into, I don't know, sports, something. Just try and do that. Because if you're gonna jump from high school right into the university college with no idea what you want to do, with no research, with no like end goal, you're gonna fail. And I don't mean this negatively. If you don't have what it takes, you're realistically going to fail, because university and college is just, it's one, first of all, very distracting. There's a lot of distractions going on, especially with like social media and like your friends and stuff like that. And also, if you have no interest in what you're taking, it's going to be even harder. So, and again, if you're not doing like a STEM field, a lot of people out here are graduating and not using their degrees. Already the millennial generation, like the older folks, generations before us, they're already dealing with graduating and not being able to use their degrees, and having to wait like months, and you know, and having to do jobs that are less than their degrees. Like they go to school for 4 or 6 years, and then now they have to do some manual labor job somewhere just because their degree, there's no opening for their degrees for the jobs they have a degree in. So if you do that as a Gen Z, you're competing with millennials, you're competing with older generation for that job, and you have no experience. So already you're cooked. Like we're pretty much cooked. We have no experience. You can't get an entry level job because those entry level positions also go into millennials, who are also struggling to get those entry level positions. So it's like you're just cooked all around, right? So yeah, I mean, that's like the job market. Job market is pretty bleak for Gen Z. I've had 3 jobs, like I said, and mind you, all 3 jobs that I've had, it wasn't from applying online. It wasn't from walking into stores and speaking to the managers and being confident. I could do that. I've done that. It wasn't any of that. And I don't know how different it is from where you're watching. Like I said, I live in Canada. So here in Canada, one thing I've come to notice is that a lot of jobs here are a person would say enter a sector, a sort of company at a high level, and everyone below them comes from their like skin color, their place, like it's people they know. So it wouldn't be like, okay, you a 16-year-old or you a 20-year-old or my age or whatever, you're looking for a job at Walmart, you apply online, you get called up, hey, how's it going, blah blah, you get through the interview, you do well, and then you get the job. That's not how it works. At least that's not how I think it works. How I think it works is that a person, say for example at Walmart, a manager will be hired at Walmart, and say it'd be a black manager or Indian manager or white manager, whatever. He would get that position within his family, right? If there are jobs available, the first how, well, the job postings are going to go online obviously, but they're going to be fake positions. What's really happening in the background is that those positions are first going to be handed out within his family, right? If no one in the family wants a job, then the extended family, right? If no one in the extended family wants a job, then it's family friends, and it's friends of their friends. Then if everyone in that circle, right, doesn't get that job, then somehow it might land onto you, right? You might be the lucky one to get the job finally. But even then, you still have to compete with everyone else also applying for that job, right? So a simple position, let's say at Walmart, or I don't know, working at a Canadian Post or something, you're never gonna get that job, bro. I've seen, and this is no hate to Indian people, this is not a hate to them, but when I tell you, I've walked into establishments such as Freshco, Canadian Post, Walmart, you name it, it's happened. I've seen one business as well at Square One where it's just black people. It's just all black employees. I've seen that as well. But Mostly I've seen recently at least businesses where it's just Indian people, bro. You will not see a single black person working there, and maybe you'll see one or two white people working there, but straight Indian people. And it's not to say they're not qualified for the job, but for example, a job, for example, at Walmart, where you're required to talk to customers, you're required to know where the products are, you're required to kind of know what you're doing. The other day I went to Walmart and I would approach one of these employees. He's Indian, right? Mind you, he's just Indian. And this is like a younger guy. I think he's like my age or a little bit older. I don't know, but he's still a younger dude, like in his 20s. And when I tell you, again, no hate to the dude, no hate to Indian people, whatever. The guy couldn't speak English, barely could speak English. He didn't know where anything that I wanted was. I just asked him like, hey, you know what the laundry packets are, the laundry things? He's like, the what? Oh, and then he looked at his phone. Just didn't know what the. And yeah, I could excuse it that he was a new employee, whatever. I can still excuse that. I found myself. I remember when I was working at Longo's, like I said, my first job. The first month, anytime a customer would ask me for something, I have to go get another employee to come help me, just because I didn't know where everything in the store was, and it wasn't as big of a store as Walmart is. So I still understand that, but when it's just not one employee, when it's not two employees, when it's not three employees, when it's almost like every employee that's like that, then there's kind of a problem there, right? Like I can't go from employee to employee asking around for help, and kind of no one knows what's going on. No one knows where things are. And it's only after I go to like one of the older employee, I'm talking to dude, he's like in his like 40s, like the super old people who work in these type of places like Walmarts, and he would know, like that guy would know, or the white people would know. So again, this is just an observation I've made. You make of that what you will, and so when it's like that, and that's just one example. I just thought of a different example. Recently, I've been dealing with uh, calls from student loans, because I'm repaying back student loans because I'm not in school anymore. Dude, every sort of service that's calling now, like call services, bro, like the people who I'm talking to on the phone, they don't speak English. Like the sort of English that comes out of their mouth, I can barely understand them. I can barely make out what they're saying. And it's not that they're not talking clearly enough, it's just that their sentence structures don't make sense. Like the things they're saying don't make sense. They don't explain things well. They don't you know what I mean? Like they're not speaking English. And I just think to myself, like, bro, I'm here and I'm struggling to find a job. And the people who have these jobs are clearly not fit for the job. So what is really happening here? Because the people who are being hired to have these jobs aren't fit for the job. So it's not because they're more qualified than me. It's not because they have better qualifications, and it's definitely not that. So what's really the deal? Again, you make of that what you would. I have my own opinions on that. I'm not going to speak on it because it's going to turn into something else, but make of that what you would. So when you're in a situation like that where you can't find a job, right? Everything just seems destitute. There's no purpose or drive anymore. I think most guys my age, Gen Z, most guys, we think about one, getting rich, like getting stupid rich, where you have your own house, your own crib, either like loft apartment or a skyscraper, or like your actual like house. You have your car collection, you have your hobbies that you do, like mountain climbing, snowboarding, something like that. And then you have like your dog. And I think that's like the dream for most guys, but that's not really like, it's not really like a goal, It's like that's something everyone wishes for in general, but every guy kind of wishes for that. That's not really like a goal, like, you know what I mean? That's not like a purpose. That's not like a reason for, like, yeah, I want to get rich, but I'm not like, it's not like, I don't know, explain that, but yeah. Anyways, so already we deal with lack of purpose. We deal with lack of opportunity, because to me it seems at least that every opportunity that's like open out there isn't really an opportunity for those who are trying to get them. I think it's just for connections, people who are in the know-how, people who have like vast social circles, vast connections. Say your dad knows someone. Again, every job that I've had 3 jobs. Every single one came from a referral. It came from a person who knew someone, a friend, who knew the owner of the who was friends with the owner of the business, a friend who referred me or whatever. So it was never from an online application. It was never from a walk-in or whatever. So those 2 things. The third thing I would say is, I think the most obvious, like dating and just girls in general. I think that our generation of Gen Z, obviously, I don't need to say this, but girls have no interest in dating guys in my generations. That is, of course, there's outliers. Unless you're like super, super tall, super good looking, you have really good prospects for like the future. You're gonna be like some NBA basketball player or whatever. There has to be something about you that, like, you know, if this is like the box and you're out here, there has to be something about you. So either it's like your looks, your status, like your clout, your aura. I don't know. It has to be something about you. If you're just a regular average Joe, just a regular dude, especially if you're chopped, even if you're not chopped, if you're just mid and you're like uninteresting, bro, you're gonna struggle with chicks. You're gonna struggle. Forget struggling. It's gonna be non-existent for with girls in our generation. That means no, you're pretty much invisible. And from what I've seen on the internet, at least, again, from like self-help type of stuff that I see and I try and consume, and just to help me, I see a lot of dudes talking about some, man, you're gonna be invisible in your 20s, and your 20s aren't meant for you to go out there and like run through different chicks, unless, again, you have the ability, like I said, unless you live outside that box, you're part of the outlier. Most likely you're just gonna have to grind super hard, get your money up, get your looks up, and work in your 20s and play in your 30s. That's like the most common advice that I see a lot of older dudes give to like guys in my generation or stuff like that. And it kind of sucks that it's come to this, where just because of the economic situation most guys are in at my age, we don't exactly have the things that girls our age want, right? So they look for it in older men and older guys, and especially if you're just an average dude, it's non-existent. Like your prospects with women are non-existent. I've been seeing a lot of talk online about like hag maxing, and that I found that to be hilarious. But that's a whole nother video. But yeah, that number three will be dealing with relationships in our day and age. Like dealing with relationships as a Gen Z is just not possible. And even if you were to get in a relationship, let's just say somehow you manage it. Somehow, say you're like that 6'7" athlete, you're that super handsome looking dude, you're that guy who's doing super well in your career, like you're in your STEM field, you're doing super well, you're graduating soon, and you're just killing it in life. You have a really good social circle, you have a really good future prospects, and somehow you're able to nag yourself one of these Gen Z chicks. Chances are she's probably gonna cheat on you. She's probably going to be talking to like 100 different other dudes. She's probably not gonna stay loyal. It's just more than likely you're gonna deal with that. I mean, the amount of people I know of personally who've dealt with like girlfriend issues and just girl issues in general, like him and his girl would be together, and just because they go to different schools, you know how it goes. Like I don't need to spell it out for you. You know how it goes. So relationships, even if you were to get in one, they're just not worth it. Like it's quite literally a waste of time. There's no you're just in a relationship just for the sake of it. You're not in a relationship to build something. You're not in a relationship to eventually create a family or eventually create something with this person. It's just for the time being, you both lack intimacy and you want that from someone. And that's what it is. I genuinely feel like that's what most Gen Z relationships are like. It's just people who lack intimacy, because I don't see them creating families. I don't see them like, just because of how the economic situation of the world is, especially here, in Canada. So, but yeah, this video is gonna be very pessimistic and sad. Of course, I would tell you to go to the gym. I mean, I do it. I go to the gym, eat healthy, try and pursue a goal, try and pursue a passion. I would personally advise you as a dude to, ignore girls for now. Now is not the time to be, it's not to say like completely cut yourself off from chicks. Like if a girl finds like interest in you and you find interest in her, try and see where that can go. But for the most part, don't chase ass, don't chase women. It's just not gonna go anywhere. It's a waste of time. Try and find something that you like, and work in the meantime. Work so that you can find a job, work that job, save some money, and try and fund like a business, or try and fund like a passion you may have. Maybe it's a clothing brand, maybe it's like I don't know, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Maybe you're trying to open your own business, maybe you want to travel the world, maybe you want to go to a different country, whatever it is you're trying to do. I'd say just work, find a job where you can survive and live, be able to provide for yourself, eat, sleep, have a roof over your head, and find a job to do that. Save some money on the side to fund like a passion of yours that could realistically make you some money if you succeed at it. And for now, just put your head down and try and grind that, because as destitute as things may seem right now, I genuinely feel that things are gonna pass. I feel like it's always been like this all throughout life, and all throughout history. There are times when things just seem like doomsday, like Armageddon, and the world is going to end. But realistically, it's just tough times, and you don't want to give up. The worst thing you can do right now is give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on like your dreams and goals. If you want to find yourself in a mansion someday with, I don't know, your cars, or you want to be married, or whatever your goals are for the future, don't give up on yourself. It's going to be hard. I have to remind myself that every day, that it's going to be hard. But you need to, especially as a guy in 2026, as a Gen Z male, you need to really lock in. So hopefully this video kind of gave you a perspective of what it's like being a male male Gen Z, being a Gen Z male in 2025. If you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like. It does help the channel. It's growing. All right, let me know how I did on the video. If you want to see more videos, I have some videos on the channel. They're a bit long, so I think I did pretty well. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, so do give me some leeway. But anyways, guys, I hope you're the best. Keep your head up, lock in whatever you're doing, and peace. Catch you on the next one.